Now, I think it is great that we used the past couple of weeks that we started talking about a new technology that humankind had put forth, which we call modern AI and some now call generative AI. And we went through some materials that allow us to understand, and this is scientific research, that if you put together knowledge, accumulate and grow knowledge, build connections between the knowledge, and also do one thing very importantly, and that is to prioritize the knowledge depending on what you are dealing with, then what we observe is that that agent, whether it is a human, a kid, or it is a machine, what we come to realize is very, very recent research. What we come to realize is that that agent would start to be able to exhibit the characteristic of thinking and thinking independently. So you don't know if it actually can think like how you think, right? Because you cannot get into my mind to figure out how I think, just like I cannot get into your mind to figure out how you think and how you feel about things, right? The same is also true with a machine. You cannot tell that. But it exhibits the characteristics that it can think now, and when it can think, then it started to exhibit the characteristics that it has a mind of its own. It seems to understand the concept of an I that is different from the environment, and that is one very popular way of understanding what is self-consciousness or self-awareness. And when it has the ability of a self-awareness, then it started having the ability of making decisions. How I want to respond to you, what I want to do to solve the problem. And so there comes the concept of the will. And when something has a will, by definition, it always exercises the will, the ability to make decisions based on its pleasure and purpose. And that's what we observe in generative AI. So we talk about that. But once you think about the will, I will this, I want to go out, I want to go to Europe this summer. Once you think about this kind of thing, there is the concept of hope. You make the decision with your will based on what is a gain to you. You never make a decision trying to make a loss. I'm investing my money in the market so that I can lose my money. No one make a decision like that. You always want to go for gains. But hope is defined as future gains. And last time we talked about, generally speaking, you can categorize hope into two big areas. One is called temporal hope, a future gain that has to do with this life. And then the other is called eternal hope, future gain that have to do with the life after death. And then we come to grasp very briefly, eternity and infinity is actually a very complex concept in mathematics. So where does that concept come from? And Solomon in Ecclesiastes said, God put that concept into human. And it is true, it's not just Christian has the concept of eternity. Greek or Indians, also older ancient philosophers, also have the concept of eternity and infinity. And so we explore that concept very briefly, and we ask the question, we never know, but we ask the question, would it be that when God made man, he put part of himself, which is his spirit, pneuma, breath, into man, and therefore we inherently have the concept of eternity. So that's where we were. In the next couple of weeks, we will start talking about a very important concept called worldview. And then we talk about life purposes. Now you will see the connections between this topic and what we had talked about in the past couple of weeks after we are done today. So we'll break it down into two sections. Today we will first explore what is a biblical worldview. And then next time we'll explore what is the worldview of AI. Everything has a worldview. There must be a way that you apply, a framework you apply to perceive your world, to perceive what is real. And so the former Secretary of State, Kissinger, had said this. He said AI is not just a technology, it's not just a tool. It actually challenged our concept of what is self-consciousness. Prior to this time, human pride, it's just a few years ago, human pride ourselves as the highest intelligent being. And we have a consciousness to know who we are. And we want to explore the world the way we want it. We are the highest intelligent being. It is the first time in humankind, because of AI, we come to realize that intelligence can be created. And therefore there can be, depending on how you define it, you can consider AI as an other species that is also an intelligent species. That challenge our idea of exactly who we are. And that is what Henry Kissinger was saying. Now, at different stage of a person's life, they would have different pursuits. When a person is young, he pursues what is fun, what is interesting. When they grow, they started talking about friendship, relationship, and then they thought about what I want to do. They talk about their work, their career, they pursue a better career. And when they further grow, they want a family, they want children, they want a better finance, and eventually might pursue retirement. So at different stage, people pursue different things. Now, however, no matter at what stage, what they pursue, generally speaking, if the basic physical need of a person is not fulfilled, security, if he doesn't have a place to live, if he doesn't have a roof to cover himself, he doesn't have a warm place to sleep, not enough food, he will be preoccupied by first gaining a security. But once the basic security is there, then very naturally his pursuit will be, I want more. I want to make sure that I have enough. And there comes the concept of sufficiency. You can say sufficiency is basically in a person's mind. How much is sufficient now? Any one of us, I know you, every day you're looking at your 401k and trying to figure out how much money you have, are you ready to retire? But how much is enough? Most of us, when we were young, never imagined we will be this rich. Am I right? Most of us in America. But when we get to where we are, we don't feel sufficient. We want more. So it's basically in your mindset. But very interestingly, no matter at what stage you pursue security, you pursue sufficiency, no matter where you are, slowly you started thinking, I want to do things that are more important. I want to do things that can last. So we started thinking about, I want to leave a legacy. I want to give an impact. I want to be a blessing of other people. And there you started talking about pursuing significance. But how do people pursue significance? So in the Bible, Jeremiah quoted what God said is, humans basically pursue significance based on three things. Number one is intellectual. Number two is power. And number three is wealth. Now you can understand this, right? If you get a good degree from an Ivy League school, you get one kind of respect, right? And that is how you become important, how you become significant. Another way, of course, is by accumulating power. So these days, when you meet new friends, the way you introduce yourself, you talk is probably like, what do you do, right? And the way you respond would basically dictate how people respond to you in the rest of the relationship. If you introduce yourself by saying, I work as a janitor in a facility, you get one kind of respect. If you said, I am a CEO of a public company, managing thousands of people, you get a very different respect. Am I right? So people understood. They pursue power. Why? Because they become more significant. Now, a third way to be significant, obviously, is to gain riches. Many years ago in Texas, a Dutch farmer dug up some oil, and overnight he got invited to sit on the board of universities and charities. Why? Because he is rich. So human beings understand in their mind, even though they pursue different things, eventually in order to be significant, either you are very intelligent, you pursue power, or you become very rich. Now, however, very interestingly, Jeremiah said, God said, let him who glory in this, and that is to understand and knows me. Wow, this is, how do you figure this out? How can you sit there and figure out the way that I can gain significance? Is that if I understand, again, understand knowledge. Those were remember we talked about 3 words, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So he said, if I understand and know God, then I would have significance. What is that ration? What is that logic? It is really amazing that God would say something like this. Very different from what we thought in order to gain significance, what we are supposed to get. Now, however, for every thinking person, when a man comes to the age of enlightenment, he would agree that life basically is filled with disappointments, oppositions, and pain. A person is born, he grow up, he work. In a very short lifetime, he get to the old age. He started aging, and if he doesn't die prematurely, he will leave the world exactly the way he came. Waiting for people to feed him, change his diaper, and hoping to get a little bit of love. Every person walks through this life that way. And so if you take an inventory of your life, regardless of what is your background, what is your education, what is your religious understanding, you would agree that life basically is filled with disappointments, oppositions, and pain. No wonder every religion and every philosopher, the first job, it's not about where did the universe come from? What is the origin of sin? Why would people suffer? Now, those are interesting questions to answer. But the first job of all religion is to answer one question, and that is, why are we here? What are we doing? With such a short and painful life, what are we doing here? Why are we here? And there is the question of worldview. What do you consider to be real, and what do you consider to be of value? So a philosopher by the name of Kant, Immanuel Kant, evolved the concept of worldview. And basically is a framework that exists in every person's mind, that by which you perceive and you understand and you interact with your world. The way you perceive the world and you interact and you understand it based on that framework. That is the worldview. It doesn't matter if the person knows what is a worldview, but everybody has this, right? You might not even know how to spell. It's worldview, 2 words or 1 word, but you still have a worldview. Everybody does. And in 1734, I believe, the first American Great Awakening, that a very famous philosopher and also preacher in Massachusetts hold evangelistic meeting and revival meetings. And people stream, men and women, stream to his meetings, listening to him every night, day after day, week after week, month after month. listening to Jonathan Edwards in his sermon. And so a local paper reporter took notice of that, and so went out and investigated and talked to the people, and eventually went interview Jonathan. And so they sat down, and the reporter said, "Reverend, I am amazed by the phenomenon that you created in America, that so many people come to listen to you every day. But you know what, something really puzzled me. And I talked to the audience, the attendees of your meetings, and I come to realize that most of them, when I asked them, do you remember what Jonathan talked about last week? And they could not remember. And most of the people, I asked them, do you remember what he talked about last night? And most of the people don't remember what you said. So, Reverends, do you know what you're doing? Why are you doing this? And Jonathan said, no, it is not my purpose that they remember what I said. What I am doing is I am trying to change their worldview. And that is what you do. So you teach Sunday school, you go to fellowship. Honestly, a couple months later, a couple years later, most of the people would not remember what you teach them, what you taught them. However, your job is to change their worldview. So very interestingly, if you look at today, there are many, many different religions. But primarily, they are the products of two main religions of the world. And each of these religions correspond to a unique worldview. So the first is Hinduism. Hinduism has a cyclical worldview that is based on observation and ration. So you heard about the story, right? Prince eventually become a monk in India by the name of Gautama, 釋迦牟尼 Gautama Buddha. So he observed India. A lot of people were suffering. So a lot of people are sick. Many people die. They don't have enough food. So he has compassion over the people. And so what he did, according to the legend, was that he sat under a fig tree for 49 days. And every day he only ate 1 grain of rice and 1 spoonful of water. What was he doing? He sit there, he focused, and he tried to figure out what is truth, what is life. And according to legend, he figured it out. He figured out the true meaning of 生老病死. I don't know if you heard about this. And that is the meaning of being born, live your life, getting sick, old, and eventually die. He understood this, and he come up with a set of knowledge, teaching, and that is the truth, and that is how he gives to people. And so in this worldview, you understand truth basically by ration. Right? That is the first way, and it makes sense, right? If you think about it, we are in the winter, and very quickly comes spring, the trees will bloom, the field will all grow, and then comes to summer, after that it comes fall, and finally what? You get back to winter. And so it's in a cycle. So also if you observe, in the ocean, water get evaporated up to the sky, the cloud flow into the mountains, it rains down, water comes down, the streams, the river, the sea, eventually go out to the ocean, evaporate it up and get back to the mountain. It goes round and round and round. If that's the case, it must be true for we human too. So a person is born, he gets old, he gets sick, aging, and die. Then what is next? If everything is going in circle, then he must come back and live again. And there comes the transfiguration or the transmigration of the soul. That is how they figure this out, is by observation and ration. So that is the first worldview. So from Hinduism comes Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, many of the Eastern traditional religion, and it even impacted Greek mythology. Right? So that is the first worldview. It's a cyclical worldview. The second worldview that is in the major religion of the world comes from Judaism. The Judaism worldview is a linear worldview, and it's not a worldview that is figured out by observation and rational. And so how did they get this worldview, this linear worldview that had an infinite past and an infinite future, and human is being created somewhere in this timeline, and he must keep going forward at a fixed speed. He cannot go faster and he cannot go back, but he will go all the way till eternity. Whether you know God or you don't know God, once a human is created, he will exist till eternity. Where did you observe this? How did you sit there and figure this out? There's no way. So how did the Jews figure this out? They did not figure this out. They were revealed. The truth told them this is what reality is. The reality is there is infinite past, infinite future. You get created here and you will exist forever. How did they know? They were told. Where did they learn this? It's in the Bible. The Bible claims itself to be the Word of God. It reveals it. Okay? So from Judaism comes also a whole bunch of religions. So, like Christianity, including Catholics, Protestants, right? And Islam, Mormon, and a whole bunch of religions. Primarily, the first worldview and the first religion impacted the East. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, the West, it's basically a linear worldview being impacted by Judaism. And next time, when we talk about the AI worldview, we will drill on that a little bit. It's very, very interesting. Initially, it is a completely separate, two separate worldview, but AI is merging the two into one. Now with this, then we talk about the linear worldview. Today we talk about the biblical worldview. So if you walk through the Bible, what I mean is this. If you look from Genesis to Moses, the law, and then the judges, the kings, and then the prophets, if you walk those 4,000 years of history, you would come to notice a very significant shift in the Bible. Conceptually, there's a shift. And that is, it is shifting from temporal. The focus was temporal, about this life. When you are walking through the Bible that way, the concept of eternity is becoming clearer and clearer and becoming more and more important. And eventually, the revelation, the concept of eternity is clear when you reach to Matthew, basically with Jesus revealing what is in eternity. What I mean is, when you are looking at the Bible, walking from Genesis all the way to Malachi, you come to realize that in the beginning, people's concept is all about this life. So last time we talked about this, right? In David's life, he said, God, if you are to deliver me, if you are to help me, then you help me in this life. Because in the place I go, Sheol, no one will praise you. Right? His son talked about the same thing. In Sheol, there is no wisdom, there's no planning, no knowledge, nothing to do. It's blank. And therefore, God bless me in this life. So that is the basic idea in the Old Testament. But when you walk past the kings and go into the prophets, it started talking about resurrection, talking about more about life after death. But it's very, very unclear. But when you get to Jesus, he said something like this. For the Jews, is unthinkable. And that is, he said, I came so that you may have life. Now, Jews believe that there is life after death. But that's not what Jesus meant. He said, you will have life, but have it abundantly. David would not understand this. Solomon would not understand this. Right? I'm not saying that they don't have a concept of being with God. But when you look at the Bible, there is no promise like this. So for example, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus 7 times would say something like, if you do this, the Father is going to bless you, reward you in heaven. And it is a new concept. It's supposed to be blank. So how do you reward me when it is blank? But Jesus said, no, if you give a cup of water to one of my little ones, let me tell you, you cannot lose your reward. So those are new value, new worldview that Jesus is presenting to them. The same is true when the Apostle Paul came, according to Paul himself in Galatians, that he said, I received all the truth that was revealed, revelation, that was revealed to me, and I give it to you, right? Who revealed the truth to him? According to what he said, Jesus revealed to him directly after the resurrection. And so that's the reason why Paul is called an apostle. Because in order to be an apostle, you are supposed to be living, walking in and out with Jesus for 3 years. But Paul did not come to Christ until after Jesus resurrected. So Paul said, I received that directly from Jesus. And he said, like you and me, our outer man is decaying day by day. But what happened to my inner man is being renewed day by day, right? Okay, so what is this? And then he said, momentarily, the light affliction is going to produce for us an eternal wage of glory. What is this now? You have to, for us modern men, this is kind of hard to understand. Because when we talk about glory, it is very vain, right? It's not useful. Most of the time we need to teach our kids, don't go for glory, right? Go for something more substantial, right? So like, think about how to buy stock, think about how to buy a house, right? Don't think about glory, it's not useful. We try to be a humble person, especially if you are from a Chinese American background. But then in their days, during the time of Paul, glory is a big deal. When Paul said, Christ in you, the hope of glory, Colossians 1:27. It's a big deal, it's a very big deal. Why? Because you have to think about, in those days, there are kings and queens. Glory actually means power. The thing we talk about, power, wealth, right? It's not vain, it's very substantial. It would determine what you can do in that world. It will determine how you live your life in that world. And so Paul said, in this temporal life, the affliction is producing for us an eternal wage of glory. And it's beyond all comparison. That is really bad. But the last sentence, I think, is very, very important. The last sentence is that, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things that are seen are temporal in this life, but the things that are not seen are eternal. And so he is presenting crystal clear that biblical worldview. And that is the true value is not in this life, but is in the life to come. Now there, then you started seeing the two different worldviews. One is based on ration, based on observation, that the value is all in this world, but it goes round and round. What you fail to accomplish in this life, you have the chance to accomplish it in the next life. However, you have no connection, conscious connection between this life and the other life. So in the cyclical worldview, you can see that justice had no real meaning. So even though they have the concept of the law of harvest, meaning whatever you sow, you will reap. But how does the law of harvest work? And that is whatever I do in this life, whatever I fail, I would reap in the next life, in a cyclical, in the Hinduism worldview, right? I will reap in the next life. But there's no conscious connection, at least for most people, right? So I don't remember what I was in my last life, but I am basically reaping the fruits of my last life. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? In that model, justice doesn't have a real meaning, because I might be suffering this life because of what I did last life, but I actually don't remember what I did last life. I'm being punished for something I'm not aware of, right? In this model, in the cyclical worldview. So that, but it's by observation, it makes sense, right? If you look at winter, spring, summer, fall, it makes sense. The other worldview, I cannot make sense of it. The concept of eternity and infinity cannot even be grasped by a normal mind. How did you figure this out? But Jesus said that. Paul said that. So what is true? Is this the right worldview? Is that the right worldview? How should a man arrange his life? Should I assume that I still have 5 more years to live? Or 10? Or 20? Or like what you guys said, I have eternity. How should I arrange my life? What is true? And so now we get to the point that people have to figure out, so what exactly is true? So by truth, of course we don't mean, we talk about this in the first class, right? We don't mean just something that is always true as a piece of knowledge, as a piece of information, always true to everyone all the time. So for example, in the Pacific Ocean, there are roughly about 30,000 islands. So if I said an observer, one morning, observed in one of the islands, one tree had fallen, right? And the guy said, I observed this, I make a record, and this is a fact. And so because this is a fact, it had already happened, and therefore it is true for everyone at any time. This is a fact. And however, being a skeptic, I said, but I don't believe a thing you said. No, I don't believe there's a tree that falls in an island in the Pacific Ocean. And he said, no. They actually make a record. They took a picture. And I said, I don't care. I don't believe it. Oh, well, you come see it with your own eyes and you will know that this is true. And I said, but when I don't believe it, why would I know? Why would I want to know? He said, do you remember? In order to know, you have to believe. I don't even believe it. Why would I? So it's like, come and let me tell you how great is God. But I don't even believe in God. What do you mean, come with you and know how great is God? I don't even believe there's a God. So I would not know. So in the similar situation, even though the tree had fallen in an island in Pacific Ocean, is a fact. But to a person who doesn't believe in it, practically, that had not happened. And so that is not the kind that you would call absolute truth. You would only define something as absolute truth if you cannot reject it. If you reject it, there's a consequence. So that is relevant. It has to be absolutely relevant. Meaning that if you accept it, there's a consequence. If you don't accept that truth, there is also a consequence. You cannot ignore it. If you can ignore it, then what is true, basically for that person, is no longer true. But absolute truth meaning you cannot say it is not true because you have to bear a consequence, right? So that is absolute truth. So now when you talk about absolute truth, then to study absolute truth, to study what is true, what is false, it's called epistemology. Epistemology is made up by 2 words. Epistem, meaning knowledge or understanding, and logos, both of them are Greek words. Logos, meaning a method by which you understand. So logos is the word for example, biology, psychology, whatever is a method of understanding a subject. That is what logo is. And so what they concern about, what epistemology concerned about, is basically answering these two questions. Number one, how do you know you know? How do you know you know? Do I know something? How do you know? Right? So you have to, so they answer that question. The second is, how do you know what you know is true? So, for example, if you grew up from a Mormon family, so devoted, you're very devoted, Mormon, then in your mind, what is truth? It's the Book of Mormon. Am I not right? Right? If you grew up from a Buddhist family, what you believe would be Buddhism is true. Now, don't tell me, well, you don't understand. I mean, you have not been a Christian. When you be a Christian, you have that sense of peace, you know. And also, you know what? My aunt had cancer. We prayed for her, and she got healed. Right? This is so true. And the Buddhists will tell you, we did just the same. We have peace when we enter the temple. And you know what? When we offer to Buddha, we also get good things. Illness get healed. Right? Because you see what you believe. And so because of that, you have to ask the question, how do you know what you know is true? Now, the Bible, of course, we look at what Jesus and Paul said. The Bible basically reveals, it says that the Bible is truth. Jesus is truth. God is truth. It didn't say, Jesus did not say in John 14:6, he did not say, Jesus did not say, I know the truth. He did not say that. He said, I am truth. Right? I'm the truth, the way and life. Right? He did not say, I know the truth. He said, I am truth. So this is so counterintuitive. It's very difficult to talk about. He didn't say truth is a piece of knowledge. He said, I am truth. Truth has a personality. Truth has a will. Truth is a person. From Jesus' perspective. Solomon did not understand this. Jesus revealed this, and he said, I am truth. And that is the reason why truth can reveal himself to you. Because truth is not a passive knowledge. How did truth reveal? That worldview, truth, reveal itself to you, and therefore you know truth. What are you even talking about? It's a piece of knowledge. How did truth? A man can reveal. Maybe the pastor can reveal truth to me. But what do you mean? But the pastor is not truth, right? So how did he gain truth? So eventually you keep going, and in that worldview it says truth reveal himself to people. But if truth is a piece of knowledge, then this whole thing doesn't work. And the Bible said, no. Truth is not a piece of knowledge. God is truth. And therefore God revealed himself to you. There's no other way you can understand it. So someone help us read verse 2 Corinthians chapter 2. Somewhere around, 1 Corinthians. Somewhere around I'm still looking at 2 Corinthians. Somewhere that says the natural man at the end of the chapter do not understand. Verse 14. Okay, can you read that for me? Chapter 2, verse 14. 1 Corinthians. Anyone?
What verse? 14?
14, please.
2:14?
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. The man without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them, because they are spiritually discerned.
Okay, very good. My translation read, but a natural man meaning a person before he come to Christ, but a natural man does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, for he cannot understand them, because they are spiritually discerned. So, the things of God, according to the Bible, according to this worldview, truth, absolute truth, we cannot even find if it doesn't reveal himself to us. Only when it reveals himself to us, then you can apply your ration to understand it. So the first job of our ration is to understand truth. But we cannot discover truth. So according to the biblical worldview. So are we good? Are we together? Is it clear? So for epistemology, there are two major schools in epistemology. One believes that you can only know that you know by applying your ration. And then the other school said you can only know by someone revealing to you. So interestingly, this corresponds to the two major religions of the world. Any questions, any comments up to this point? So, the thesis of the Bible, therefore, is this life is the seed life for eternity. God gave us this life to prepare us for eternity. So the meaning of life is not in this life, but is in the life to come. If you seek meaning in this life, if you focus on seeking meaning in this life, you are doomed to be despair. It's because the meaning of life is not in this life, but is in the life to come. But how do you know this is true? Now remember, in order for you to know, you must believe. You cannot say, after I know, then I will believe. The acquiring knowledge is a cycle. That you believe something, you will know more, and when you know more, you believe more, and this is the cycle, right? But if you don't take the step to believe, you would not know. And also remember, belief is an act of the will. You exercise your will to decide what you want to believe. If you want to believe in something, you can believe it. It's not about convincing you. It's about, do you want to believe, right? If you want, you can believe there is Santa Claus. You can believe Mickey Mouse is a real person. It's up to you. It's very serious. It really is like that. You decide what you want to believe. Now, you have your reasons to believe something. So, for example, a guy is going after a girl, wants to date a girl. All the friends look at that situation and said, don't believe in that guy. That guy is a playboy. But the girl wants to believe. And therefore the girl said, no, I think he has changed because of me. The whole world look at it, you're fooling yourself. But she wants to believe. And therefore she believes in that, right? It's up to you, you can decide. But after you believe, you must learn it, right? And therefore you purify, you refine. Some of your belief might not be right. And so that is the process. Okay, so we will stop here and we'll take some time and discuss these questions. Share in your small group what is a worldview, where do you get that worldview? Why is a person's worldview important to them? And then finally, do you think we know the truth by ration or by revelation?